It was supposed to be perfect. Every brushstroke, every shade of color meticulously chosen, obsessively crafted. The critics? They didn't understand. The world didn't understand. But I did. I could see it so clearly. Feel it beneath my fingertips. Perfection. It was right there, tantalizingly close, just beyond my reach. But something was missing. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how many times I bled my soul onto that canvas, it was never enough. The painting rejected me. Spat at my efforts, demanded more. The colors weren't rich enough, the lines lacked life. I needed something real. Something irreplaceable. My wife. Oh, how she inspired me. Her laughter, her beauty, it brought warmth to a cold world. But even she couldn't understand. She said I was obsessed. Consumed by my work, by the painting. She begged me to stop, to see reason, but how could she see the vision I carried? How could she comprehend the price of true art? Her voice became noise, her presence a hindrance. I did love her. But love isn't enough when you're chasing greatness. No. Her beauty had to become more. It had to become eternal. And then there was our daughter, innocent and pure. She too could have been part of the masterpiece. But in the end, they were both merely the paint, the canvas, the tools to complete what I had started. It had to be done. For the painting. For the world to finally see my genius. And now, as I stand before it, their blood on my hands, I see it. The perfect painting. My masterpiece. It's complete. But why? Why does it still feel so hollow? Now that we've stepped into the mind of the tortured artist, let's pull back and take a look at the origins of Layers of Fear. Released in 2016 by the indie studio Bloober team, Layers of Fear quickly carved its place in the horror genre. The game was heavily inspired by the works of psychological horror and narrative-driven experiences like PT and Amnesia. But what really set it apart was its dedication to exploring the theme of madness through the eyes of an unreliable narrator. The development team drew inspiration from real-world artists and their struggles with creativity, obsession, and mental illness. The painter's descent into madness was designed to reflect the inner turmoil that many creators face. An endless pursuit of perfection that can lead to destruction. It's a game about art, but more than that. It's about how art can consume the artist. The gameplay revolves around exploration and unraveling the mystery of what happened to the painter and his family. You, the player, take on the role of this unnamed artist, navigating the ever-shifting environment of his mansion. Each room is filled with cryptic clues, paintings, letters, notes, all hinting at the painter's deteriorating mind. As you move through the house, the environment constantly changes, reflecting his unstable mental state. Corridors that once led somewhere suddenly become dead ends, and familiar rooms warp into nightmarish distortions. It's this unpredictability that creates a sense of dread. You never know what's going to happen next, but you can feel the madness closing in with every step. It's all here now. Every detail, every sacrifice. I can't shake this feeling. The brush felt different in my hands as I made the final strokes. It felt lighter. It felt almost hollow. Like it wasn't my hand anymore. I thought, no, I knew that once the masterpiece was complete, I'd feel whole, that the madness would stop. But it hasn't. The room still spins around me, the walls are still breathing, and the faces, their faces. I tried to immortalize them, make them something more than flesh and bone, but I only see the horror in their eyes. They watch me now, silently accusing, trapped forever in the brushstrokes I thought would set them free. Every time I close my eyes, I see her, my wife, my muse, standing over my shoulder, her face twisted in pain. She whispers to me, "Was it worth it? Was it?" I tell myself that I didn't have a choice. This was my life's work, my legacy, the painting that would make them remember me. But deep down, I know this isn't what I imagined. The colors bleed like wounds. The canvas screams in silence. What have I done? As we continue to explore the mansion, we start to piece together the truth about the painter's life, his obsessions, his regrets, and the darkness that consumed him. The game doesn't just hand you the story. Instead, it scatters clues throughout the environment, making you, the player, piece it all together, like fragments of a shattered mind. We come across letters, medical notes, and sketches that hint at the artist's growing struggle with alcoholism. Bottles of liquor are often found strewn across the mansion, suggesting he sought solace in the bottom of a glass as his artistic vision grew more distorted. His addiction becomes a crutch, a way to drown out the voices, the doubts, and the overwhelming presence of creating his masterpiece. But instead of finding clarity, he only sank deeper into his own madness. The alcohol fueled his paranoia, leading him further down a path of self-destruction. And then there are the rats. Throughout the game, the painter constantly refers to an infestation of rats, claiming that they are everywhere, chewing through the walls, gnawing at his sanity. We see them scurrying in the corner of our vision, hearing them scratching and squealing from behind closed doors. But are they real? Or are they just another hallucination, a manifestation of his decaying mental state? It becomes clear that the rats are a symbol of his fear that his life and his art and everything he holds dear is slowly being eaten away. The loneliness that permeates the mansion is palpable. His wife and daughter are gone, and we feel the emptiness in the room. Letters from his wife reveal her frustration with his neglect, his obsession with painting over family. And there's a heartbreaking sense of loss as we realize the painter had pushed away the very people who could have saved him. Now he's left alone with his thoughts, his guilt, and the unfinished canvas staring back at him. These clues are subtle but powerful. They paint a picture of a man who wasn't just an artist, but a husband and a father. Someone who wanted greatness but lost everything in the process. Layers of Fear uses these fragments of his life to tell a tragic story of a man driven to madness by his own ambition. I thought I could create beauty from pain, that through my art I could capture something eternal, something beyond mere flesh and blood. What I've done is far more monstrous than I could have ever imagined. Her skin, it was so delicate, so soft, perfect. I needed it. Needed to feel it beneath my fingers, to make it part of the canvas itself. When the brushes wouldn't do, when the colors seemed too dull, her skin became the foundation. It stretched across the frame like a blank, pale canvas, waiting for the first stroke. But it wasn't enough. The hues, they weren't right. I needed something more pure, more lasting. I ground her bones into dust, white, flawless, like porcelain. Her very essence, her bones, became the white that would bring out the colors, that would highlight the dark shadows in my work. Each sweep of dust across her skin brought the painting closer to life. And my daughter, her hair, so fine, so perfect. It flowed like silk. Just like when she used to laugh, running through the halls, before it all went wrong. I used it as my brush, weaving her innocence into every line, every shape. I told myself that they would live forever in this painting, that through their sacrifice I could create something immortal. I could make them beautiful. But now, as I look at it, at the blood dried on the palette, at the twisted canvas, I see the truth. There is no beauty here. Just pain. Just madness. The canvas screams, their voices echoing in my ears, crying out for something that I can never give them. I can never give them peace. Layers of Fear doesn't rely on conventional horror tropes like monsters or gore to frighten the player. Instead, it uses horror as a vehicle to explore the concept of the tortured artist, a creative mind pushed to the brink of insanity by the pursuit of perfection. The game masterfully intertwines this descent with its unsettling atmosphere, creating a psychological horror experience that resonates on a deeper level. The painter is a symbol of the tortured artist archetype, someone who sacrifices everything, including his family and his sanity, in the name of art. The horror comes not from external threats, but from his internal struggles. His obsession warps his reality, turning his own home into a labyrinth of nightmarish visions. This isn't a game about being hunted by monsters. It's about being hunted by your own mind. The mansion itself becomes a reflection of the painter's inner turmoil, shifting and changing as his grip on reality slips away. Hallways twist, paintings melt, and rooms repeat in maddening loops. Each distortion a symbol of his fractured mental state. The more he tries to control his art, the more the world around him unravels. Layers of Fear uses this environmental horror to illustrate the idea that creativity, when pushed to its extremes, can consume the artist entirely. The game also highlights the darker side of the creative process. The isolation, the self-doubt, and the obsessive need for approval. The painter's fear of failure manifests in the mansion's many horrors, from the haunting presence of his wife to the unsettling hallucinations of rats gnawing at his work. These are the demons that plague any artist, but in Layers of Fear, they are brought to life in terrifyingly real ways. Each scare in the game is carefully designed to reflect the painter's deteriorating mind. The more you explore, the more you realize that the horror is not what lurks within the shadows, but what lies within the painter himself. The game's horror doesn't just shock or startle, it makes you feel the weight of his obsession, his madness, and ultimately, his regret. It forces you to confront the question, how far would you go for your art? And at what cost? In the end, Layers of Fear is not just a story about a man losing his mind. It's about the dangerous line between genius and insanity, and how the quest for perfection can drive someone to horrific lengths. It uses horror as a lens to explore the complex, often destructive relationship between an artist and their work, showing us that sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we create ourselves. Thank you all for watching. I tried to do something a bit different today with the little short story thrown in at intervals between the video from the protagonist's perspective. If you enjoyed it, please let me know. If you had any other ideas for this Let's Talk About series, also feel free to chuck them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Alright everyone, thank you all again for watching, and have a good day.